So the year was 2024. 2024 was the hardest year I've ever had in my entire life. I don't consider myself necessarily a lucky person, but up until that point, from a business side of things were just going. And I am a very spiritual, like woo-woo girl. So sorry. But actually, I'm not sorry. But I do feel like when you put in a lot of energy, you should get close to what you want. And I put in a fuck ton of energy and I got whatever the opposite was, quite frankly. And I think sometimes in business, we need a year or a period of time to freeze us, to stop us in our tracks in order to understand, like, why the fuck are these things happening to me? And if you caught the last episode, I talked a little bit about how I arrived up into this point. My business was growing really, really quickly. I was getting so many incredible clients and opportunities, and we as a company were hiring like crazy. But right there is one of the biggest mistakes that I made. We were hiring like crazy. And whatever that old adage is like, hire slow, fire fast. I did not listen to that at all. And that created a culmination of like a series of bad decisions and my emotions honestly getting the best of me. And though I'm an emotional person, in business up until that point, I have always led by love. That is a big, value prop, but also core value to myself and to my company, leading with love and always finding a way to push through. But I just found that leading with love was kind of fucking me over, quite frankly. So let's start from the top and let's start pulling back some of these layers. I needed to not be the only salesperson, and I needed to expand my sales team. And I love selling. I love relationship building because that's really what it is for me. And I love cultivating those relationships, landing the meeting, like having the good pitch, like having the adrenaline. I clearly like to talk a lot, and I was looking for someone who could run as quickly as I could and can. And I found this person, and it seemed great and good talker, all of those things. But at TMS, we have a 90-day probationary period, which sounds like darker than it actually is. But it's basically like, are we a good fit for one another? And it's quite frankly protection so that we can both leave one another, and wipe our hands clean. So this person had a goal that they needed and felt confident that they could reach within 90 days. And when I tell you that they brought in zero in those 90 days. And they had a very hefty, uncomfortably hefty salary. And right as I was about to let her go, she quits, of course. And I'm looking on LinkedIn, and she had said some dumb things to me right as she's quitting. And I look on LinkedIn and I notice, she has been working for another competitor in LA at the same time. Put it on LinkedIn. Like ballsy moves that we won't even go into the ethics of it, but just like think about that for a second. And unabashedly put it on LinkedIn that she was working for the Media Socialites and this other company. And it just felt like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, how did this just happen? Exactly. And so it made me feel uncomfortable. Like I needed to close in a bit. And I hired another salesperson who ended up being incredible. He's a very good friend of mine. But I was just like, how did I not see why did it take me? Why did I need to go 90 days to see that this fucking person wasn't working? I should have cut it at 60. I should have cut it at 45, quite frankly, because everything that she said, she wasn't. And again, somewhere along the lines in 2024, I just stopped listening to my intuition completely. And I had a big team around me and a lot of executives on my team. I think like at some point, 10. 10? I mean, I'm 37. Everyone else is pretty much around that age or slightly older, with my CFO being the exception. My dad is my CFO, so he is the exception to the rule. Everyone else was like in that age bracket or younger. And I hired and appointed different people because I liked them, because I saw potential in them. And up until that point, hiring friends or seeing potential had worked for me, or it had seemingly worked for me. I had hired a friend of mine who, stay-at-home mom. I just believed in her ability. She was very convincing, and I would often have conversations, feel so pulled by someone's connection to me, and hire them. And then be like, you know what, fuck it. I will teach you everything that you know, help shape or mold them. And that had worked sometimes, but it also didn't work like a lot of the fucking time. And it also screwed me like 90% of the time. Let's go 95% of the time. My desire for them to be incredible versus their capabilities were disproportionate, and disproportionate in like out of my favor and into theirs. And I kept doing this repeatedly, hiring friends, hiring close people in my circle, almost as like protection. I can actually say that now. I've done enough therapy that it felt like I needed a net or protection around me so that I could, be enjoying the process. I felt like if I could make money with my friends and impact their families and, allow them to make the money to get the homes that they want, like what better rush is that? But that's also kind of weird. Like it sounds great, but it's also fucking weird. And it didn't work. It didn't work over and over and over again. I hired another friend who stole fucking money from me. I've hired multiple friends who have stolen money from me. And it feels, when you cut a relationship off after you've brought them into your home, my home is the media socialites, and you're like being vulnerable with them, it just feels exponentially worse than anything else for them to not like either meet that mark or for them to be defiant or malicious or just not actually do or present as they say that they are going to do or present. Okay, so we're now at, that's 3 friends. Perfect. I'm not going to share all of them, but it's been probably 10, if I'm being honest. The next one, which was probably one of the worst. I hired someone who I loved and trusted and so deeply believed in, and was young. She reminded me a lot of myself, where she was like very no fucks given, my younger self, my corporate self. No fucks given, because clearly that hasn't changed. But also not scared to say the thing that no one else wants to say in the room. Not scared to, push boundaries. So polished, so all of these things. And I was like, damn. Let's put that girl on my executive team. And again, talented, like no question talented, but also very publicly had another job. Happened again, guys. Had another job. And we had a good relationship where I had, if someone had a side hustle or anything like that, because I did seem to attract lots of people because they knew my story with side hustles. I'm not into that now, for those who are wondering. But we had named it in our contract, like, okay, you can work on this, this, and this outside of working hours. But this is your role. You're getting paid beautifully. And this is your priority. And it got to the point where I kept getting disrespected. So I don't say that lightly. I think it's overused often. I also think the word toxic is used too much to not actually describe a toxic situation. But both of these things were both like disrespectful and fucking toxic. So here we are. I was at Bridal Fashion Week. That was a big piece of my business. And this person just like during working hours was going and working for another company right in front of my face. And I didn't want to say anything out of like being scared to disrupt my house or to upset or out of fear that the house of cards is going to come down. What I have realized now reflecting, because you're now almost seeing like 2024, hearing 2024 Persephone and then seeing 2025, is that no one can break your business. I am the core of the business. It is mine to make. It is mine to fucking break. And no one person has that ability or control over your company. And I continuously did that where I would put people in positions with a lot of control, a lot of responsibility, a lot of salary, to the detriment of my own needs and my own company's needs and my own financial needs too. Like what? And so I've had to do a lot of reflecting as to like, what the fuck is that about? Honestly, why did I keep doing that over and over and over again? I gave this person, and I confronted her and said, like, I'm uncomfortable by this, and was told that I was being ridiculous and this was a hobby and a passion project. And I accepted that. If you know me, even if you don't know me, you can probably hear from me that just doesn't even sound right. It doesn't like line up with who I am and who I've always been. But I accepted that shit because I was so scared that she leaves, she walks, house of cards falls. I did this over and over and over again. And what I also realized is in that process of like trying to hold on to these friendships, trying to hold on to these employees. And again, friendships, but they're my employees. I just like, sorry to be so crass, but like literally shat where I ate. Not okay. Not recommended. In a small business, medium or large, I'll never do that again. It got too messy and it took me too long to make hard decisions that I should have made in 1 millisecond. I let that person stay for an extra 10 months because I was scared. I had another friend who I had employed and I love her. She's so smart. But rather than just saying like, this isn't working out, I just like let it go. Because again, there was some need that I needed to fulfill within myself of safety, needing to feel loved, which I was like, what is happening? What the fuck is happening here? I am loved very much by my husband, my family, my boys, like my friends. But I just mixed too many things together that it got so sloppy. And then when I had to actually take the step of letting that person go or pushing that person out, now I am feeling hurt. and feeling like there's a hole in my heart and pain that I wouldn't feel if this person was just my employee or if I had just kept it cleaner and neater. I realized that some of the underlying themes here are that don't hire people that have no experience, none, in whatever that thing is that you need them to do. I have had several experiences work well when that person already has that skill set and is an expert in whatever their zone of genius is. But this continuously kept happening when I was like employing these people, raising them up too fast, like elevating them to executive level positions when they had no, like they might have come in as an account manager, which no hate, no shade on that, but that doesn't give you the ability to run operations for 70 or 80 people and multiple clients. It just like was so clunky and I couldn't understand how to stop it. Then I got to this place of like, how do I stop this? Because I'm bleeding out financially. Like this isn't making sense financially. And why isn't our profit margin higher? And like all of those things, why isn't this making sense? Then I started to take deeper looks in those around me. Again, still my executive team. We started to knock off some of them. But I found that they were really kind people, but they were so not qualified that we were creating silos and there was misinformation or no information coming to me. So I'm like, I don't understand. I thought we fixed this problem like a week ago or 3 weeks ago. Why the fuck is this like client leaving because of something that we said was fixed? And it just wasn't coming to me because, and I'm like, okay, what kind of environment am I fostering? Like, have I accidentally created an environment of yes people around me? Because it's the opposite of what I want. And I had to, and this doesn't sound lovely, but this is just what I had to do. I had to shave off not only a lot of my executive team, but a lot of key leadership in order to get into the weeds, see for myself, employ people who came in with no relationship to me or complete expertise in that field, smarter than I was or I am, and fix the situation. But that was after I realized how fucked up it was and how, I mean, my marketing was getting fucked. My marketing, I own a marketing agency and my marketing is fucked up because I hired someone who didn't know what they were doing. That the fault is on me. And it's not cute to say. It sucks. It has sucked big time because I'm like, aren't I smarter than that? Like, did I just not want to see it because I like them so much, because they're so wonderful, because they're a good person? Like, what the fuck is going on? But when it got to the point of like, it was undeniable that this, whatever I wanted them to be, was not actually who or what they were. I had to make big changes. And that meant scaling down my team. That meant making really hard cuts, really hard calls. All along the way, I'm going through a lot personally because being the leader, being the CEO is like the least glamorous. This is not for the faint of heart. You have to say shit that just is ugly. You have to look at things at all times. You cannot have your eye off of the fucking ball. And I think that I just trusted so much that my ball was over here. And I was the only one going in this fucking direction. While everyone else is going over here and backwards and down. Like it, it was a lot. Eddie and I also incurred a lot of grief, which I'll talk about at another time. And what I will say is kind of that experience helped me to understand that two things were true. It literally felt like my entire world was on fire around me, except for my marriage. Again, my husband and I work together. So my marriage was so solid. My children, my family, so solid. But basically every relationship around me that I had relied on was failed, had fallen to the ground, was burnt to a crisp. And it puts you in such an isolated situation. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that I learned that I needed to process why I was doing this to begin with. And again, I'm a big believer in therapy. I'm also very woo-woo, as I mentioned, but I needed to dissect, why have I felt like I needed love from my employees? That's so crazy. Why do I need to feel beloved? I wasn't the popular girl in high school. I didn't even become a person who had a lot of friends until college, or felt confident until college, quite frankly. So where is this coming from? And of course, all roads point back to mommy issues. And so I needed to get into it, because in therapy, when you talk about childhood therapy and healing your inner younger self, I thought that was the biggest crock of shit I've ever heard. And I still I struggle with that idea, but I had isolated my entire childhood into different boxes. And even on here, I will speak about it very matter-of-factly at times and with not too much emotion. But the one connection I realized that I could tie back is that I don't have a relationship with my mom. I haven't in 13 years. And I will explain, not now, but later. And that has single-handedly impacted every single female relationship that I have ever had. And I work currently and have worked predominantly with women. So it was the hits of good, oh my God, I love working with you. I love all of that. I needed that to fuel me, and I was not willing to roll it back. And as a result, it really messed with me and my business. And I had to right side where we are today. But it just made for such a hurtful and tumultuous year that I could have avoided if I had just kind of handled this, because it's something that has continued to plague me. And I didn't even know until you can't, it's undeniable at that point. So there it is. A bunch of uglies on the table. I hope that it gives you a little insight. People always ask me how I've worked with so many friends, family, and again, in some situations, it has worked and has continued to work so incredibly well. But please learn from this. Please learn that you've got to poke holes, and you need to make sure that those people have that experience, that you can mold people. I'm not saying you can't mold people, but just to do your background checks, but also do your own gut checks and listen to the other voices who are trying to help you, because I know I could have saved myself a lot of money and tears in the process. Anyways, for now, that's where we are. I'm excited to continue to share more, and we will chat soon.